Welcome to the Black Box App Podcast. I'm your host, Kenneth L. Johnson. Listen, I'm excited to be here today because I have a gentleman. I met this gentleman in New York City. He was waving the flag for Morehouse Men. So I knew that he was a person that I needed to connect with, but he actually came over to me and connected through and asked me if I was okay. And I can always appreciate that. We got Eric Mcglothen on. What's going on, my friend?
What's up, man? How you doing, man? Good to see you again.
Man, everything is good. I can't complain. Now, you're in Atlanta. Are you in Georgia right now?
I'm in Atlanta right now in Georgia. Yes.
Okay.
Outside in this cold weather.
See, cold to you is probably different than cold to us. Are you native to the South? Where are you from?
I am from the Bay Area, California, so I am not used to this cold weather at all.
Okay, so this is actually cold to you. Come on, it gets a little, well, no, it just gets a little chilly enough in the Bay for them to pick the grapes out there in the valley. Okay.
Look, man, we get like 60-something degree weather, and that's cold to us, man. This little 40-degree, 30-degree weather out here, and that weather y'all got up north, now y'all can have that.
It's real. Now, real quick, so I have a question for you that's related to that, but tell the audience a little bit about yourself, please.
Yeah, man. So from California, what brought me out to Atlanta, I went to school out here, Morehouse, met my wife. So decided after going back to California for a little while after school, I came back to Atlanta because I always wanted to be here. I loved the positivity. I love that Black folks out here are doing things. I mean, I know now 20 years later, but I kind of knew it back then that it's just a place where Black folks can open a business and do well. And I love that. So I have a CPA practice. I'm a CPA, got licensed in 2000, had a practice for like 22 years helping businesses, with their taxes and save on money and get their books together. That's what we do. So I'm married with 2 kids.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. So now here's the thing. Typically when I hear people speak about helping businesses, is there a niche business interest for you? Is there a particular business that falls right in line with what you do?
Yeah, so it's great that you asked that, because one thing I did learn over the years is that you really have to have a niche no matter what business you're in. Otherwise, it makes it difficult to market and also makes it difficult to grow your business. So my niche is dealing with doctors, attorneys, and real estate professionals are really the people who we deal a lot with. Other business professionals as well, but those are the key areas that we, seem to have a lot of success in.
I like it. So I would imagine that's a good place. You're probably working with a lot of Black businesses as well, I would imagine.
Most of our clients are Black businesses. That's who we really want to help, because we realize that, our counterparts, they have access to this information, so it appears to us. But for our people, our goal is to make sure that we know, everybody wants to know, what's the secret to not having to pay all these taxes? That's always the question we get. How did Donald Trump not get to pay all these taxes? So we got to do the best we can to kind of share with them the things that we know and the things that they can do to help minimize their tax position.
Man, I can appreciate that. So let's kind of go back a little. So I wanted to kind of walk through the career journey. So you're a young man out in the Bay Area in Northern California. And you're looking at opportunities to continue your education, and you fall upon Morehouse, or did Morehouse fall upon you? Is there a family history? Is it something you wanted to do? Talk to me about that decision and experience.
No family history. So I'm in the Bay. I went to a school that was predominantly white and Asian, and some Black folks. Most of my friends were white and Asian. But I met one of my a gentleman who was a year ahead of me. Him and another gentleman went out to Morehouse. I'd never heard of Morehouse. Berkeley, UCLA, those are the schools that we hear out in the Bay. So to think about Morehouse, I'd never heard of it. But I went out to visit because I wanted to go away from home to go to school. I didn't know that. I wanted to go away from home to go to school. And so I went out to Morehouse and visited, and I loved it. And I said, that's where I'm going.
Hey, look, I made a visit while I was in college at the University of Pittsburgh. I was just telling this story the other day. So we made a visit, me, 3 of my friends. We drove to Atlanta, went to Morehouse, hung out, and I almost transferred. It was that good of a time. I just enjoyed the whole vibe and the experience. So I can understand how that would. I guess I would imagine you were probably about 18 at the time. I would imagine how that would fall on the eyes of an 18-year-old as well.
Yeah, it was very transformative for me. Great to be away from home, and that's one of the big things about going away to school is you get to kind of spread your wings and do your thing. Yeah, it was very transformative. The ability to meet other individuals. So, I mean, when you go up in a high school where if you're excelling, most of your peers don't look like you, that becomes a struggle because then you kind of have this whole identity crisis. And you feel like you're the only one. So to go to a school like a Morehouse and to see 2,000 plus other Black men that are excelling and doing well in leadership and all these other things helps kind of build you up and let you know that you're not a unique individual. There's others like you. And it also instills in you that you can be whatever you want to be. That's kind of what Morehouse did for me.
Yeah, I can see it did it well because again, I met Eric when you were here in New York City, here in Harlem, and you were pretty much the host at a Morehouse event, I guess, after an HBCU Classic. Tell us a little bit about what was going on, what that experience was, and what you were doing there specifically.
So it's Morehouse Howard, Classic that they did not played in years, so they're trying to do this thing in New York, which came off very well. Attendance at the game was over 30,000. People called it the pre-homecoming events, so that was awesome. So this was a brunch that the National Alumni or the New York chapter put on for a kind of an ending event to the whole weekend. And so it wasn't sponsored by me. I'm the treasurer.
Yeah.
For the National Alumni. So I simply was helping check folks in and giving some instruction, but really Mike Lebescu and his team were really the ones that put that together. But it's my act of service to give back to the school and to those that attended.
I'll just say it here, at least in my opinion, and I'm coming from the lens of a recruiter and a Black man. I can appreciate you being involved continuously even after graduation, but we as Black men view Morehouse and the alumni as the token bearers, the bearers of what's good about the things that we're doing in our communities and the things that we stand for. And I think it's fair to say I appreciate you setting the narrative at your own tone. Let's talk a little bit about that in the narrative. So you started out, if I remember correctly. Now, I don't know. This is all in my head.
Yeah.
Right? So
yeah.
Now, I remember seeing that you were at Deloitte for a while. You were in
the
consulting space. Okay. So talk to me
about the auditing space.
In the auditing space. Okay. Talk to me about, was that your first job out of college?
That was my first job out of college, and it was tough.
All right. Talk to me about how you landed there. And then let's take a career journey. Let's talk to our listeners and viewers just about your career journey.
Sure. So, I landed there. So when I was in school, I was an accounting major, and I honestly didn't know a lot about it. My father was an accountant, but I just didn't know. So I'm just kind of falling through things. And then I did an internship with IBM, or what they called a co-op back then. And I really believe simply doing that co-op, which is where I took basically 6 months off from school to work and get experience in my field, helped me be able to land a position at Deloitte. Because back then, that was the big 8 public accounting firms. They're not easy to get into. Even less of us are in there. And so I was blessed and fortunate to get there. And I say that the co-op was so important because I had other peers that had much higher GPAs than me, did better than me, and ended up not being able to get that kind of position.
Sure.
And so I was fortunate in that way. Now, when I got to Deloitte, I struggled. I just did. Sometimes people learn at their own pace. And so I was a slow learner. It takes me a while to get something. And so I just didn't progress the way everybody else was progressing. And, after 4 years, I got let go. They were like, you're going to be successful, but you're not going to be here. And that could be a humbling experience. I don't know if, anybody in the audience ever been, fired from a job, but that's tough. makes you
Well,
rethink some
hey,
things.
so yeah. So let's talk about that. Let's pause there for a second. Um, after you receive that news, what's your process? Because that can be devastating, but a lot of us experience it. A lot of us don't know that that's not the end of the world. How did you kind of frame that for your success moving forward? Because you've been immensely successful.
Well, so I had to. I was married, so I just been married maybe a year or two. My wife, was still not finished with school, and so she couldn't. She was working, but not be able to support like I need to. So I had no choice but to get up. And so the good thing I will say that Deloitte did do is they helped put me with an executive recruiter, which helped me be able to land another job and work at Southern Company
Okay.
in their internal audit department. So that was the good thing. The experience of being at a public accounting firm helped me to be able to land my next position. So that was helpful, but it's still, even though it took me only a month to get a job, I'm not going to downplay what that does to be fired from a job. That's hard.
It's so, oftentimes, I'm a big, so I'm a big things happen for a reason person, but I hate when people say it's all going to work out. So like it's the cross in my head, like, yeah, things
Yeah.
happen for a reason. But I hate when people say it's all going to work out, because I believe that we have to make it work out. And it looks like you made it work out. I know this is years ago, but can you recall like the first step that you took once you got that news towards your next career move?
Well, I know it's very clear because at the point that I got let go, this is how divine intervention works. Is my next door neighbor to me just happened to be a Morehouse grad who graduated the same year I did and was also an accounting major. I did not know him in school, but he desired to start an accounting practice, and so did I. I mean, and so we started talking, and I actually started a practice while working at Southern Company, and
Okay.
that would not have happened had I been at Deloitte. That would have been a conflict of interest. So that's really what I believe, that things happen for a reason. You just have to kind of be open to what's happening. And that taste, I call it the taste of entrepreneurship. I always tell people it's intoxicating.
Mm.
I just think the ability to have the freedom to do the thing that you love, and for people to want to pay you for what you're doing is just awesome. And I love it. So after I was at Southern Company, this is how it worked out. So I was at Southern company, great job, didn't have to work all these extra hours. But I was so bitten by this entrepreneurship bug that after a year and a half almost, I quit.
Wow, I love it.
No cushion, new baby just born, my first son was born. I just quit.
Just
And
walked
that
out
was
there on
probably
faith.
the worst decision I ever made, was to leave with no cushion, no savings.
Ah,
The
okay.
long and short story, a house went into foreclosure, couldn't pay my house note, ended up getting cars repossessed, almost lost my marriage. I mean, I do not advise clients even now. I'm like, look, all about entrepreneurship, all about pursuing your passion, but have a plan, have a cushion. Make sure you put things in order so that you can set yourself up for success and not set yourself up for failure.
I love it. I was speaking to a gentleman on the podcast. His name is Chris Matthews, and he does a lot of different counseling, but particularly his lane is kind of marriage and couples counseling, and he's excellent at it. But he spoke about when he ventured into entrepreneurship and started out his own business, and he said he was working and doing relative well. Check out the podcast for Chris Matthews, but he speaks about how, I don't know, he might have said he was making $40,000, $50,000 working at his regular job. And he realized that the entrepreneurship side of things could yield him more money. So I loved what he said. He said he demoted his full-time job and promoted his entrepreneurship venture, but he kept them both until he was ready to move. But he just kind of took his priorities and shifted them a little to allow him to create that cushion while still having the other job, but also to grow and expand his business. And then I think he secured a few clients where he knew he would be okay moving forward.
I love that you said that, and I love that Chris Matthews said that promotion and demotion. I usually tell clients it's difficult to raise three babies at one time because clients sometimes like to have multiple businesses, and I tell them you got to prioritize. You got to tell yourself, this is my first priority business, this is second, this is third, and so forth. So even now, I have multiple businesses, but my CPA practice is my breadwinner. So I'm not making that same mistake. This is where I spend my energy and my time. Everything else that has to get done is all like not a priority, or it falls second or third or fourth to what I'm doing with my CPA practice.
So let's frame this in that space, right? So what's your advice to, that freshman, that sophomore at Morehouse or anywhere else in the country, or just a young person that's kind of really looking at entry-level career opportunities? Any advice you have for them?
So my advice is typically always the same. Because of what I told you, how my opportunity to be work at Deloitte, I believe was partially tied to the fact that I had gotten some experience in my field prior to graduation. I am a big proponent of internships. I'm a big proponent of getting some experience in your field to make yourself more marketable after you get out of school. Because, and I'm not an HR person, but because I hire people, you're looked at differently while you're in school versus once you graduate from school. There's different expectations. So the ability to be able to get that experience before you graduate plays out well after you graduate. But to leave with a degree and no experience makes it more difficult in the marketplace for you to look attractive to an employer.
And things have changed. I don't want to age either one of us, but experience can come in a lot of different ways. And now people can create their own opportunities, even through online businesses and things of that nature. And that's still valuable on the resume. It tells you a lot about the person at the other side of the desk, that they were willing to be creative and have some ingenuity and start something on their own, even if it's not really that revenue generating thing that people see as a job, but something that they're doing outside of the realm of what they do.
I would 100% agree with that. You're absolutely right. Times have changed because more young folks probably than ever now are starting their own thing, doing their own thing, do not want to work these 9 to 5, these 40 hours plus a week. They're not going to do that. The 50, 60 hours I had to work when I was at Deloitte, they're not going to do that. They're going to be like, look, I need my time. This is what I want to do. If you can't do that, somebody won't take the job.
They won't take it. They'll find a situation that kind of accommodates the way they view their work style, at least initially. Now, to your point, life starts to happen, house notes, kids, things of that nature, and then they make some minor adjustments on how they view how things work, right?
Yes.
All right. So entry level, people are seeking out experience. People are, securing opportunities to grow. So from a middle management standpoint or a mid-career standpoint, what is it as Black men that we need to be looking to do when we're at mid-level in our career to advance?
What do we need to do? I think the thing that I look for, again, looking at internally how I look at my staff, is the ability to step out, show leadership, show that you can go above and beyond. I think is really important when you're trying to stand out. Just doing the bare minimum, I guess they call that quiet quitting, I guess is not going to play out well when you're trying to advance. And again, maybe I'm aging myself, maybe people look at it differently now, but that's how I look at it. And then also, I will tell you, there's something to be said for loyalty. I don't know if they do that exists as much anymore. I've had staff that's with me for over 10 years now, and I just find that invaluable. Sometimes it can be more valuable than having, somebody that's talented is someone that's going to continue to be and grow with your company, because that whole thing of having to bring on somebody new and retrain them and get them ingrained in your system, that can be taxing.
No pun intended, right?
Right, exactly. No pun intended.
That can be taxing. We're seeing through our experiences as a search firm that mid-career people are looking to They're looking for opportunities internally for professional development, especially on the tech lean, right? Because some of us came in maybe not possessing innate tech skills like some of the talent that comes into the marketplace now. So I've seen that a lot of individuals are in search of professional development, in search of networking and volunteer opportunities that tie them into the communities that they live in and that they serve and appreciate. And then also, again, I think people are looking and saying, hey, what are the skills I need for the future of work? We keep hearing that work's going to change. What do I need to do? So speaking about the future of work, and that's actually even an initiative we have here at Blackbox, and we're offering Google Tech certificates to Black men and career wraparound services. So anyone that's listening to this podcast, please feel free to visit blackbox.tech to receive information about that. But in your space, where are you seeing, how are you seeing the impact of tech in your space? What's that look like for you?
Well, what's really happening and what they talk about in the accounting field is one is technology is starting to take over just in terms of the simple day-to-day transactional work, where before you had to manually enter transactions in our accounting system. Now that data is actually pulled in via, for example, bank pools, where it pulls the banking data in from the bank, puts it into the accounting software, and can even classify it where it needs to go. On the tax side, there's actually software now that will read a W-2, read a 1099, input the data into the tax software. So it requires less manual work and more. So that this whole, they call it compliance work on the tax side when you're doing a return. That stuff is low level work is what is considered versus doing like tax strategy. So it's more advisory work that clients are looking for now, where we have to play, because the day-to-day just bookkeeping and just preparation of return at some point, maybe not, in the near year 1 or 2 or whatever, but in the future, it's going to go away. But some of the advisory work that we're doing, that requires more of a human touch, human thought process. So that's really what we're going to have to play. And that's the transition that's really happening, even in this CPA world, as CPAs get older. So that's the other thing that's happening, even outside of technology, right? A lot of CPAs are getting older and they're retiring or they're dying, and there is less of the young folks that are coming into this field. That's what we're seeing, because it's not maybe as sexy as other fields and professions. So there's less of them. We're actually, there's a whole effort now trying to find more CPAs. Black CPAs are my concern, but CPAs in general, because they're not coming in. People aren't majoring in accounting like they would.
Yeah, I find it so interesting the way people approach their careers now. Every time I go out and I speak to a group of people, and people will come and they'll pull me to the side and say, hey, you know what? I'm looking to make a move. And I can pretty much say one of the 10 companies that they're looking to make a move to. As soon as they pull me aside, you know anything about Google? I know you work with them. How about Netflix? You doing anything?
Right.
They name all of these signature companies. And I'm like, do you know there are tens of thousands of organizations out here?
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to get there.
Yes.
But there are great opportunities, with your organization. There are great opportunities with other organizations where you might be able to go in and learn a little more, because you'll have direct access to Eric, right?
Exactly. Learn more, make a bigger impact, have opportunities to do things that you may not be able to do in a bigger company, more flexibility. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities that can happen with smaller companies. I don't know the numbers, but apparently a lot of the workforce, a lot of them work for small businesses.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Exactly. So let's talk about that a little before we wrap up. I was just speaking about, someone coming in and having the opportunity to kind of work under you or with you, we'll say. And what is our responsibility as senior level executives, as Black men? What's our responsibility to the younger generations coming through?
I really think it's just to pour into them and to create opportunities when we can. So I take that responsibility seriously, like the ability to be able to employ people that work in my firm. So about 14 people that work part-time, full-time, contractor, employee, but the ability to be able to provide a place and a space where people can grow, make money that supports their lives, I just think is so important and critical. And I think that it's up to us as those of us that are in this space that are in positions of power or have the ability to hire or to teach to do that and to set up for the next generation and even create opportunities where they can advance and own their own. I want my sons to own their own things. I want them to, okay, you can work for somebody for a while, but eventually you need to have your own empire.
Right.
That's what I think that our responsibility is to this younger generation.
All right.
Particularly our people.
For sure. I want to ask you a question. So I have a son, he's 18. I would fall on the floor if he wanted to be a recruiter or even to follow my footsteps in any way with some of this career services stuff. I just don't think he has any interest whatsoever in it, which I'm fine with. I'm 100% fine with that. Do you find do you believe that your sons will be the third generation accountant? Because your father was an accountant, right? So
yep.
Do you believe your sons will follow in those footsteps?
No, my oldest son, 23, graduated from Dillard, and he was a public policy, urban studies major. His interest is affordable housing. It has nothing to do with accounting. He doesn't want to sit in front of a computer, doesn't want to be at a desk, but that's okay. What I will say, what I did do is, here's the pivot he did. He decided after he graduated from school, about a year later, that he wanted to go drive trucks. So he went and got his CDL. We supported him in that. And now I said, well, if you're going to go get your CDL, you're not going to go work for somebody else. We're going to start a trucking company. So I started a trucking company, and he's a part of that company.
Man, that's the most amazing.
And he's going to drive. Yeah.
You can't start my day out with stories like this, man. That's the story I'm talking about. That's amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, you know, so I have a family that they're really big on asking 11-year-olds what they want to do for a living, right? And they're like, you need to, and I'm like, you don't even know, that career hasn't even been created yet, but they're going.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
Like, who knew that you would just be able to sit and code, you know, like 10.
Exactly.
Like in our communities, like where was that mindset that, hey, I'm going to do UX design, you know, I'm going to be an app developer. Like let them work their way through and find their own lane. But it's up to us to provide some structure around some of that.
That's correct.
And to your point,
that's correct.
All right, you're not going to be a truck driver. We're going to do it this way.
Yes, you're going to be an owner.
Yes, I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that. So Eric, in closing, I know you're familiar with the app, the Black Box app. Why do you believe an app like Black Box is important?
Well, I think it's important because it's important for us to be able to hear stories about us and see us. I just think that is so important that exists. And so anything that promotes us and Black men and Black people and seeing us and how we can excel and hearing stories, I just think is critical. And so we don't get to see enough of us, not on TV, you know, outside of sports and entertainment, but to really hear maybe not unique stories and just stories that are just not what we would normally hear in our day-to-day, you know, conversations. I just think it's important.
Man, well, I really appreciate you sharing your story and our ability to amplify the voice of great men like you is what we're here to do. Again, Eric Mcglothen, CPA, tax strategist, business manager, accountant, father, guidance. Love it all, man. Morehouse Man as well.
Yes, Morehouse Man.
So, listen, I really appreciate you joining us today on the Black Box App podcast. Once again, we air on Frontliners TV, so we are available in 50 million households. Just please lock in. You can connect with us on Instagram, blackbox.tech. You can connect with us on Twitter at Blackbox. You can connect by visiting the East Coast Executives website or just visiting blackbox.tech. We're excited to share the stories of Black men. And I'm excited today to share the story of Eric Mcglothen. Thank you so very much, sir.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.